Marley was dead to begin with. There is no doubt whatever about that. The register of his burial was signed by the clergyman, the clerk, the undertaker, and the chief mourner. Scrooge signed it, and Scrooge's name was good upon change for anything he chose to put his hand to. Old Marley was dead as a doornail. Mind, though, to my knowledge, I am unsure as to what is particularly dead about a doornail. Scrooge and he were partners for I don't know how many years. Scrooge was his sole executor, his sole administrator, his sole friend, and sole mourner. And even Scrooge was not so dreadfully cut up by the sad event, but that he was an excellent man of business on the very day of the funeral, and solemnized it with an undoubted bargain. Scrooge never painted out old Marley's name. There it stood, years afterward, above the warehouse door, Scrooge and Marley. The firm also was known as Scrooge and Marley. Sometimes people new to the business called Scrooge, and sometimes Marley. Oh, but he was a tight-fisted hand at the grindstone, Scrooge. A squeezing, wrenching, grasping, scraping, clutching, covetous old sinner. Hard and sharp as flint, but for which no steel had ever struck out generous fire. Secret and self-contained and solitary as an oyster. The cold within him froze his old features, nipped his pointed nose, and shriveled his cheeks, stiffened his gait, made his eyes red, his thin lips blue, and spoke out shrewdly in his grating voice. A frosty rime was on his head, and on his eyebrows, and his wiry chin. He carried his own low temperature always about with him. He iced his office in the dog days, and didn't thaw it 1 degree at Christmas. External heat and cold had little influence on Scrooge. No warmth could warm, no wintry weather chill him. No wind that blew was bitterer than he. Once upon a time, out of all the good days in the year, on Christmas Eve, old Scrooge sat busy in his counting-house. The door was open that he might keep his eyes upon his clerk, who in a dismal little cell beyond, a sort of tank, was copying letters. Scrooge had a very small fire, but the clerk's fire was so much very smaller that it looked like one coal.
"A Merry Christmas, Uncle! God save you!"
It was the voice of Scrooge's nephew, Fred, who came upon him so quickly that this was the first intimation he had of his approach.
Bah! Humbug!
He had so heated himself with rapid walking in the fog and frost, this nephew of Scrooge's, that he was all aglow. His face was ruddy and handsome, his eyes sparkled, and his breath smoked again.
"Christmas a humbug, Uncle? You don't mean that, I'm sure."
"I do. Merry Christmas. What right do you have to be merry? What reason do you have to be merry? You're poor enough."
"Come then, what right do you have to be dismal? You're rich enough."
"Bah, humbug."
"Don't be cross, Uncle."
"What else can I be, when I live in such a world of fools as this? Merry Christmas. What's Christmas time to you but a time for paying bills without money? A time of finding yourself a year older and not an hour richer? If I could work my will, every idiot who goes about with Merry Christmas on his lips should be boiled in his own pudding and buried with a stake of holly through his heart."
"Uncle!"
"Nephew, keep Christmas in your own way, and I shall keep it in mine."
"Keep it? But you don't keep it."
"Let me leave it alone, then. Much good it may do you. Much good has ever done you."
"There are many things from which I might have derived good, by which I have not profited, I dare say, Christmas among the rest. But I am sure I have always thought of Christmas as a good time, a kind, forgiving, charitable, and pleasant time. The only time I know of when men and women open up their hearts freely and to think of people below them as if they were fellow passengers to the grave, and not another race of creatures bound on other journeys. And therefore, Uncle, though it was never put a scrap of gold or silver in my pocket, I believe that it has done me good, and will do me good, and I say, God bless it."
The clerk in the tank involuntarily applauded. Becoming immediately sensible of the impropriety, he poked the fire and extinguished the last poor frail spark forever.
"Let me hear another sound from you, and you will keep your Christmas by losing your station. You're quite a powerful speaker, sir. I wonder you don't go into Parliament."
"Oh, don't be angry, Uncle. Come, dine with us tomorrow."
"No, and no."
"But why?"
"Why did you get married?"
"Because I fell in love."
"Because you fell in love."
As if that were the only thing in the world more ridiculous than a Merry Christmas.
"Good afternoon."
"Nay, Uncle, but you never came to see me before that happened either." Why give it as a reason for not coming now? I want nothing from you. I ask nothing of you. I am sorry, with all my heart, to find you so resolute. We have never had any quarrel to which I have been a party, but I have made the trial in homage to Christmas, and I'll keep my Christmas humor to the last. So a Merry Christmas, Uncle.
Good afternoon.
And a Happy New Year. Merry Christmas, Bob.
Merry Christmas, Fred. This lunatic, in letting Scrooge's nephew out, had let 2 other people in. They were portly gentlemen, pleasant to behold, and now stood with their hats off in Scrooge's office.
Scrooge and Marley's, I believe. Have I the pleasure of addressing Mr. Scrooge or Mr. Marley?
Mr. Marley has been dead these 7 years. In fact, he died 7 years ago this very night.
We have no doubt his liberality is well represented by his surviving partner. At this festive season of the year, Mr. Scrooge, it is more than usually desirable that we should make some slight provision for the poor and destitute, who suffer greatly at this present time. Many thousands are in want of common necessities. Hundreds of thousands are in want of common comforts, sir.
Are there no prisons?
Plenty of prisons.
And the union workhouses, are they still in operation?
They are, though I wish I could say they were not.
The treadmill and the poor law are in full vigor, then?
Both very busy, sir.
Oh, I was afraid from what you said at first that something had occurred to stop them in their useful course. I'm very glad to hear it.
A few of us are endeavouring to raise a fund to buy the poor some meat and drink and means of warmth. We chose this time because it is a time of all others when want is keenly felt and abundance rejoices. What shall I put you down for?
Nothing.
You wish to remain anonymous?
I wish to be left alone. Since you ask me what I wish, gentlemen, that is my answer. I do not make merry myself at Christmas, and I cannot afford to make idle people merry. I help to support the establishments I have mentioned. They cost enough, and those who are badly off must go there.
Many can't go there, and many would rather die.
If they would rather die, they had better do it and decrease the surplus population.
Good Lord.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Seeing clearly that it would be useless to pursue their point, the gentleman withdrew. Scrooge resumed his labours with an improved opinion of himself, in a more facetious temper than was usual with him. Meanwhile, the fog and darkness thickened, so people ran about with flaring links, proffering their services to go before horses and carriages and conduct them on the way. The ancient tower of a church, whose gruff old bell was always peeping slyly down at Scrooge out of the Gothic window in the wall, became invisible and struck the hours and quarters in the clouds, with tremulous vibrations afterwards as if its teeth were chattering in its frozen head. The cold became intense. The brightness of the shops, where holly sprigs and berries crackled in the lamp heat of the windows, made pale faces ruddy as they passed. Poulterers' and grocers' trades became a splendid joke, a glorious pageant, with which it was next to impossible to believe that such dull principles as bargain and sale had anything to do. The owner of one scant young nose, gnawed and mumbled by the hungry cold as bones are gnawed by dogs, stooped down at Scrooge's keyhole to regale him with a Christmas carol. But at the first sound of
God bless you, merry gentlemen, may nothing
Scrooge
you
seized the ruler with such energy of action that the singer fled in terror. At length, the hour of shutting up the counting-house arrived. With an ill will, Scrooge dismounted from his stool.
So, you'll want all day tomorrow, I suppose?
If quite convenient, sir.
It's not convenient. It's not fair.
It's only once a year, sir.
You don't think me ill-used when I pay a day's wages for no work? It's a poor excuse for picking a man's pocket every 25th of December. But I suppose you must have the whole day. Be here all the earlier the next morning.
Yes, all the earlier. The office was closed in a twinkling, and the clerk, without a coat, went down a slide on Cornhill, at the end of a lane of boys, 20 times, in honor of it being Christmas Eve.